Unbind reload is not a metaphor. You can unbind square for your reload, X for your reload on Xbox, or R for your reload on keyboard and mouse. You do not need it with this build, and you can absolutely nuke champions. And here are just a few clips of me using this against barriers and overloads when I am 22 light level below. It is a master at 2030, and I am 2008. And this is just the special weapon. We're not even looking at the heavy yet. You can also do this same exact thing to mini bosses. You'll see some footage there where you can just delete them in one magazine and even stagger them using this build. It's incredibly powerful. Here we are using it against the ogre. The smoke is going to blind him and weaken him, and bam, absolutely shredded. Alright, so let's go ahead and dig into the build and see what makes this thing tick. So this build does require you to use everything that I have here, minus the heliocentric, but I think it's helpful. So you do need perfect paradox, and the reason that this works is because of cast no shadows. Basically, cast no shadows with your snare bomb on Hunter constantly procs cast no shadows, which is going to give you just infinite ammo in your magazine as long as your snare bomb is up. And you can pair that with Saint's Inspiration, which is going to overflow the magazine. You can pair that with anything here that you want, but this is a kinetic weapon, so weaken doesn't really help. Radiant Orbs is nice because Radiant is just going to give you more damage on top of the damage that you're already doing with Perfect Paradox, and Rapid Fires already do a good bit of damage and have fantastic reserves. Next up, we need to talk about the heavy weapon. So that's just the special weapon. The heavy weapon can do the same exact thing, except it has access to bait and switch. It has cast no shadow, and instead of clown cartridge, you would want something like demo. And basically, even once the season is over and Saint's Invocation is gone, you can dump a mag, throw your melee, refill the ammo, and as you're shooting those shots, it will refill the next amount of shots. So you start off with 20 total in mag and reserves. You shoot 6, throw your melee, you're going to shoot a couple, and you're going to get some loaded back in. You're going to shoot about 8, and then when you throw your grenade, you will then get another 6, and if you can do math, that equals 20 shots, so you never have to reload once. On Perfect Paradox, you can use something like Trench Barrel, or you can use something like Vorpal. Trench Barrel does not reproc with Snare Bomb, but it does give you an additional 50% damage on those first 3 shots that you're going to fire, so it is pretty nice in that aspect, but Vorpal Weapon is just going to give you a flat 15% for every shot you fire. So let's go ahead and take a look at the build. We got Gambler's Dodge. That's so whenever we dodge near an enemy, we're going to get our Smoke Bomb, because you absolutely need to have your Smoke Bomb. That is the only way that this build works. Whenever we hit an enemy with our Snare Bomb, we proc Facet Dawn, which is just going to grant us Radiant. I have a Duskfield on because I'm using Renewal Grasps, but you can use whatever you'd like. And we'll talk about exotic class items and which 2 I think are the best in just a moment. We're running Stylist Executioner and Gunpowder Gamble. The reason that we're running Stylist Executioner is because pretty much everything here is going to make us invisible. And Gunpowder Gamble is the same exact thing. Anything that makes us invisible is going to activate Gunpowder Gamble. Gunpowder Gamble also procs Demolitionist when you throw the grenade. So that gives you an extra grenade you can throw in case your melee doesn't work out for your line in the sand. So like I said, powered melees, Facet of Dawn. We're going to be in the thick of it. Facet of Protection to give us some resistance is always a solid pick whenever going with a melee based build. I have Facet of Blessing. We'll talk about some different ones because you're not really going to be getting a lot of melee kills. So we'll talk about some things that you can swap this out with. But I like to use this for whenever I panic melee and accidentally kill something. I get 2 shots in a weapon and I heal. Facet of Solitude to make everything that is around the enemy that I am shooting severed so they do less damage to me. On top of the resistance I already have, makes this really powerful. And then I'm going to recommend that along with this, we use Facet of Ruin, which is basically just going to make our shatters bigger and our ignitions bigger, and we're getting ignitions from Heliocentric, Gunpowder Gamble, and we're getting shatters from anything our Duskfield freezes. But let's talk about Facet of Blessing, and let's see what we can replace it with. Facet of Generosity is pretty much free. It's just going to give you orbs for pretty much anything. You can use Facet of Defiance, which is really good because we're going to be up close and personal. Finishers are going to be great. Or you can use Facet of Purpose if you want something like Restoration, Frost Armor, Woven Mail, Overshield, Amplified. But I definitely recommend that you're not going to want to use certain supers with this build just because of how it works. So I'm currently using Deadfall just because it's going to help weaken enemies and I want to be a good support player. Storm's Edge isn't that powerful inside of PvE. Silence and Squall is more for ad clearing, and while Silk Strike does do good damage, you're in your super for way too long. So I feel like the best one to use is going to be Golden Gun for some fast damage, Deadfall to support your teammates, or Silence and Squall to kill ads. And when we're talking about class items, the reason I'm using Dusk Fields and I'm using something like Solitude to add Sever on top of those enemies is because we're using Spirit of Pseudarachnid, which doesn't work like the helmet. It actually just gives us Woven Mail anytime we throw a grenade. Which, sure, doesn't have to be a Dusk Field, but if you do use a Dusk Field and throw it at your feet, it will freeze the champion that you're attacking or boss that you're attacking, and the shadow damage will be bonus damage, on top of the fact that with Spirit of Renewal, you'll be gaining Frost Armor, and enemies inside of the Dusk Field will do less damage. So they're severed, they're doing less damage from Renewal, they're doing even less damage with Facet of Protection, and on top of that, if you're Transcendent, you have even more damage resistance. All this while you're shattering a weakened enemy while radiant. It's absolutely insane the amount of damage you can put out with this kind of build. But if you did want to get rid of Sword of Arachnes and Renewal Grasps, you can use Shards of Galanor and Star Eater Scales as your class item, or you can just build into one of those by using just one of those exotics. You are not required to use the exotic class item. The exotic class item just creates better synergy for the class overall. So either run a Grapple with Sword of Arachnes, Duskfield with Renewal Grasp, and instead of Shards of Galanor or just Orpheus Rigs, you would want to run either Celestial Nighthawk with Golden Gun or Orpheus Rigs with Deadfall. Alright, with that out of the way, let's look at the mods. So first up for the mods, we have Dynamo. We're going to be dodging near enemies to get our melee back anyways, so let's go ahead and get some super energy while we're at it. I have Impact Induction. You can use multiple grenade kickstarts if you would like, because we're not getting our grenade back as fast as we're getting our melee, so you definitely want to build into getting that grenade as fast as possible. You're also welcome to build into getting your class ability faster, but it's so fast on Hunter that I feel like that's kind of pointless most of the time. So for this build, you're going to want decent mobility and pretty good discipline, resilience of course because it's PvE, and wherever you want the rest of the stats is up to you. I don't recommend strength. I have 2 kinetic mods on my boots. Feel free to use Arc for Line in the Sand if you want. And then, of course, on the class item, I have Bomber, which is going to reduce our grenades whenever we use our class ability, so we can get our grenades back even faster. You can use a Siphon mod on your helmet. I would be using something for Solar with Heliocentric, because anything that dies after the explosion, so once Incandescent goes off the Scorch, anything that dies is going to count towards Gunpowder Gamble and make me invisible, so that's why that's the weapon that I'm using. You can use whatever weapon you would like though. The only thing about this build that you cannot change is Perfect Paradox, Line in the Sand, and Snare Bomb. You can swap out Line in the Sand or Perfect Paradox, but I recommend using them both together because they have fantastic synergy, because they both work with the Snare Bomb glitch. So you can change one of them if you want, but I feel together they are more powerful. Of course, you want a backup mag on all of these weapons because that's the best thing to use in PvP. And here's what a damage rotation would look like if we just use our melee. So we do have some ammo built up because we have gotten our Snare Bomb, used it, dodged to get another one back. We're dumping as much ammo we can into a boss. This is just purely speculation. And then we throw our Snare Bomb. Bam, we're going to dump some ammo. And as you can see, we never have to throw our grenade to reload. So in a perfect world, you don't have to actually use your grenade. Now, once the seasonal artifact is gone, you will have to throw at least one grenade, but you will never have to manually reload, which means you can run Enhanced Battery if you want, which tanks your reload speed, because it doesn't matter, because we unbind our reload buttons with this build. And here I am using Facet of Solitude, just to show that even with Perfect Paradox not hitting precisions perfectly, you can see that it will proc here in just a moment. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and if you did enjoy, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing, it would really help me out, and comment down below what you think about this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it may be.